Corruption is one of the most serious problems facing many countries around the world. It not only contributes to economic development and maintaining stability, but also leads to instability and a decrease in the quality of life of citizens. Lately, our world has been like a huge mafia group of criminal countries. Transparency International annually publishes the Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), which measures the level of corruption in various countries. A list of 20 countries with a low level of development, according to the CPI, is provided. What does corruption lead to? Who takes bribes? Which countries are the most corrupt? What factors in these countries lead to corruption? You're going to find out now, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell. Somalia has maintained its position at the very top of the list of countries that are regarded as being the most corrupt in the entire world over the course of many years. Somalia has continued to hold this position throughout this time. Several years of civil war, the absence of a stable government, and the presence of a powerful armed organization have all contributed to the widespread corruption that has been allowed to spread throughout the country. This particular form of corruption has been allowed to spread throughout the entirety of the nation. The prevalence of bribery and extortion in everyday life is making it increasingly difficult to provide assistance for humanitarian causes and development. Because of this, it is becoming increasingly difficult to provide assistance. This came about as a result of the widespread adoption of these business practices by a large number of companies. The second point is that South Sudan has a score of 12 out of a possible 100 on the Corruption and Perceptions Index (CPI). This is the second point. In South Sudan, there is a problem with corruption, which is made even more severe by the fact that the war is still going on. The country of South Sudan is marred by a significant amount of corruption. There are a number of factors that have contributed to this particular situation, including the ongoing civil war and the unstable national political climate. Despite the fact that the vast majority of the population lives in abject poverty, the majority of the revenue that is generated from oil is used to enrich the personal lives of those who are in positions of political power. Despite the fact that the majority of the population lives in poverty, this is the circumstances that have arisen. Syria has been given a score of only 13 out of a possible 100 points on the Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), which measures how negatively people perceive corruption. The prolonged conflict in Syria has caused damage to the institutions of the state, and widespread corruption has spread throughout the entirety of the country. This is a direct result of the conflict. This is a direct result of the tension that persisted throughout the situation. The conflict that has taken place has resulted in this happening as a consequence of the conflict. The current economic situation and the humanitarian crisis have become even more dire as a result of allegations that the government of Bashar al-Assad engages in illegal enrichment and nepotism. These allegations have led to the current situation becoming even more dire. These accusations have been made in light of the fact that the situation that is currently occurring has become more severe. This is the case because the situation has become even more precarious than it was before, which is the reason why this outcome is occurring. The truth of the matter is that these allegations have been made available to the entirety of the general public. The Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI) for Yemen is currently rated at 15 out of a possible 100. This rating is relatively low. This is a rating that is on the lower end. Both the ongoing humanitarian crisis and the political instability that Yemen is experiencing are factors that contribute to the proliferation of corruption in the country. Yemen is currently experiencing both of these things. The country of Yemen is currently dealing with both of these problematic situations. There is a significant likelihood that aid that is supposed to be used for humanitarian purposes will be stolen or misappropriated before it is used. A situation like this does not happen very often. As a consequence of this scenario, the suffering of citizens is consequently made even more extensive than it already was. That suffering was already quite extensive. The Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI) currently has Venezuela ranked 16 out of a possible 100. This is the current score that Venezuela has received. The nation of Venezuela is currently going through a period of economic and political upheaval, which is accompanied by a high level of corruption that is widespread throughout the country. Furthermore, the country is experiencing widespread corruption. The widespread corruption that is accompanying this political and economic upheaval occurs simultaneously. There are allegations that the government of Nicolas Maduro has been involved in a massive theft of state funds, particularly revenues from oil sales. These allegations have brought about allegations of corruption. There have been allegations of corruption brought about as a result of these allegations. The country of Sudan is currently ranked 17 out of a possible 100 on the Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), which measures perceptions of corruption. the fact that Omar al-Bashir was removed from his position of power, Sudan is still dealing with significant issues of corruption. This is not something that has changed. Despite the fact that the circumstances have improved and become more favorable, this continues to take place. There is a correlation between political instability and weak state institutions, and when this connection exists, it is easier for corruption to spread throughout all levels of government. Since more people are drawn to corrupt practices, this is the result. This is due to the fact that corruption is more easily spread than it might otherwise be. The likelihood of corruption occurring is increased as a result of the fact that these two components are correlated with one another. The Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI for Guinea-Bissau, assigns the country a score of 18 out of a possible 100 points. This suggests that the country is not very corrupt. Both political instability and a high level of corruption are among the most notable characteristics that can be found in Guinea-Bissau. Other notable characteristics include a number of other notable characteristics. The country of Guinea-Bissau is distinguished by a number of distinguishing characteristics. The existence of drug trafficking contributes to the severity of the problem, which is already quite severe. Because drug cartels bribe government officials in order to guarantee the secure transportation of their goods, this is the situation that has arisen. The problem becomes even more challenging to solve as a result of this. On the Corruption Perceptions Index CPI, which is a measurement of people's perceptions of corruption, the North Korean government received a score of 19 out of a possible 100 points. It is possible that the totalitarian regime that Kim Jong-un is in charge of in North Korea is to blame for the high level of corruption that can be found in the country. There are a number of characteristics that distinguish North Korea from other countries, and one of those characteristics is the fact that it possesses this particular trait. The combination of economic isolation and the practice of exercising strict control over the population makes it easy to establish a shadow economy, which is characterized by the fact that bribery and corruption are necessary for survival. This is because the shadow economy is characterized by the fact that it is necessary for survival. A shadow economy can be established with greater ease as a result of this particular factor. As of right now, the Corruption Perceptions Index CPI for Haiti has been assigned a score of 20 out of a possible 100. In Haiti, there is a widespread problem of corruption, which is made even more severe by the political instability of the country and the recurrence of natural disasters. All of these factors contribute to the severity of the problem. The nation of Haiti is a country that is beset by problems related to corruption. The international aid that is supposed to be distributed to those who are in need does not make it to them because of theft and poor management. This is a significant portion of the aid that is supposed to be distributed. This turns out to be a very unfortunate circumstance. In accordance with the Corruption Perceptions Index CPI, the value of Libya reached 21 out of a possible 100 points. The country of Libya descended into anarchy and civil war almost immediately after Muammar Gaddafi was removed from power in 2011. This occurred almost immediately after his removal from charge. The proliferation of corrupt practices can be attributed to a number of factors, including the absence of a centralized authority and the disintegration of the nation into a number of distinct factions. These are just two of the factors that contribute to the problem. The Corruption Perceptions Index CPI for Afghanistan is currently ranked 22 out of a possible 100 points, with a total of 100 different points being available. Afghanistan continues to struggle with the issue of corruption, despite the fact that the international community has made significant strides toward creating a more stable environment in the country. Afghanistan is currently experiencing a challenging situation. Large sums of money that are supposed to be used for international assistance frequently find their way into the pockets of corrupt officials and warlords. Out of a possible 100 points, Iraq is ranked 23rd on the Corruption Perceptions Index CPI, which measures the perceptions of corruption in a country. The country of Iraq is plagued by a significant amount of corruption, despite the fact that it is in possession of a significant quantity of oil reserves, in spite of the fact that Iraq is home to abundant oil reserves. There is a connection between the number of corrupt schemes that are being perpetrated and the instability of the political system, as well as the inefficiency of the institutions that provide state services. This is because both of these factors encourage dishonest behavior, which is the reason for this result. Along the Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), which is a measurement of perceptions of the level of corruption, Zimbabwe received a score of 24 out of a possible 100 points. The country of Zimbabwe continues to struggle with problems that are associated with corruption, despite the fact that Robert Mugabe was removed from power in 2017. 2017 was the year that Mugabe was removed from power. The collapse of the economy, the worsening of inflation, and the instability of governance have all contributed to the facilitation of the proliferation of corrupt practices all over the world. This has been the case in every region of the world. Equatorial Guinea got a score of 25 out of a possible 100 on the Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), which put it in 14th place. The CPI is a measure of how people perceive corruption. But the country of Equatorial Guinea is distinguished by a high level of corruption, which is also one of its defining characteristics. This is one of the characteristics that is used to describe the country. When it comes to oil resources, Equatorial Guinea is a country that has an abundance of them, as a direct consequence of the fact that the political elite is in possession of control over the majority of the state's revenues. The majority of the population is living in poverty. This is a direct result of economic inequality. Guinea is currently ranked 26th out of a possible 100 points on the Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), which measures perceptions of corruption. As of right now, this is the exact situation. Guinea, despite being in possession of a vast quantity of natural resources, is plagued by a significant amount of corruption. This is despite the fact that Guinea is a country that is rich in natural resources. A terrible waste of money occurs when funds that were supposed to be used for the development of infrastructure and the improvement of the well-being of citizens end up in the pockets of corrupt government officials. And this is a terrible waste of money. The occurrence of the circumstance can be traced back to in the past. A score of 27 out of a possible 100 points was awarded to Burundi on the Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), which measures perceptions of official corruption. A persistent problem of corruption plagues Burundi, which is made even more severe by the political instability that exists within the country. Burundi is still struggling to overcome this problem. The country of Burundi is one that is extremely affected by this issue. The widespread practice of bribery and embezzlement of funds from the state has the effect of slowing down the rate of economic development. This is because of the widespread nature of these practices. This is the result of the widespread practice that has been going on. The Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI) assigned the Democratic Republic of the Congo DRC a score of 28 out of a possible 100 points. This score was based on the perceptions of corruption in the country. It is a country that is plagued by a significant amount of corruption, despite the fact that it possesses a large quantity of natural resources. This country is known as the Democratic Republic of the Congo DRC, that in terms of the extraction of minerals, the political elite and armed groups are in control. In order to gain their power, they frequently resort to violent methods of doing things and corrupt practices. In other words, they are in control. For the time being, Chad's Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI) has a value of 29 out of a possible 100 points as indicated by the scale. There are significant problems that are associated with corruption in the country of Chad, despite the fact that it is abundant in oil and other natural resources. Chad is struggling with these problems. Located within a region that is rich in these resources and is considered to be a region that is relatively abundant. There is a correlation between the number of corrupt schemes that are being carried out and the instability of the political system, as well as the inefficiency of the institutions that are responsible for providing services to the state, because both of these factors encourage dishonest behavior, which is the reason for this result. This is the reason why this result occurred. According to the Cambodia Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), the country has received a score of 30 out of a possible 100. This score was determined as of right now. Although Cambodia's economy is expanding, the country continues to struggle with a significant amount of corruption. This is despite the fact that Cambodia is getting better. The fact that Cambodia's economy is growing does not change the fact that this is the case, however. A sizable portion of the economy is controlled by the political elite, which is comprised of individuals who are affiliated with the party that is currently in power. This constitutes a significant portion of the economy. This political party is currently under the control of the political establishment, which is responsible for exercising control over it. This fundamental reason can be traced back to the widespread corruption that is currently present in the world. Currently, Mozambique has a score of 31 out of a possible 100 on the Corruption Perceptions Index (CPI), which measures perceptions of corruption. At this moment, this is the score. Corruption, which is a problem that continues to plague a large number of nations all over the world, is one of the most significant challenges that has the potential to impede development. It is one of the most significant challenges that has the potential to impede development. As a result of this, the expansion of the economy is hampered. The citizens' faith in the institutions of the state is diminished. The levels of poverty and social inequality are exacerbated, and political instability and conflicts are brought about. But all of these things are undesirable outcomes. Each and every one of these things is a direct consequence of this. When it comes to effectively combating corruption, it is absolutely necessary to put into action a comprehensive strategy in order to bring about the desired results. In order for this strategy to be successful, it is necessary to incorporate a variety of different components into the overall plan. The strengthening of institutions, the guaranteeing of transparency and accountability, the enhancement of civil oversight, and the implementation of anti-corruption measures are all components that are included in this category.